who's out there having a chill day today. Chill days only. Not me, but I hope you are. And I'm doing my best. Welcome. Today we're going to be doing the earth sign readings. So that's going to be Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And I hope you'll forgive that I have my air conditioning running. It is a nice soothing sound to some people. But it is over 90 degrees here. And it's 5 p.m. So I feel justified in turning on my air conditioning. Additionally, I will be drinking lots of water. So I usually use the ashes, but today I'm going to be using selenite, so hold on a moment. I haven't used selenite for the opening cleansing ritual in some time. And I'm also going to be using the laser pointer. So what I'm doing here is just gently picking up any surface level negative vibrations that might be disturbing you at this time. Sorry. Just like when you get a roll of tape around your fingers and you just gently slide it over the surface. To remove any debris. All right. Put my phone over there so I won't get distracted while I'm doing the readings. The cards that I'm using this week is the Marigold Tarot, and the Sign of Pentacles in this deck is rings. So that's why I chose that particular lyric. All the lyrics this week, of course, are from the Sisters of Mercy song, This Corrosion, which is like 12 minutes long. If you listen to the extended version. Also, after this reading is concluded, when I go over to the members side of the channel, I will be using this slab of moss agate for the crystal scrying. Now, yesterday, the air signs, I didn't really get any messages coming through. I did hang out for a little bit just to see what was going on. But, so if everything gets resolved with the tarot, then I'll still be over there, and channel members can ask personal questions, and I will answer them using tarot, pendulum, or the crystal. And if it's a specific message rather than a general message, maybe something else would come through more specific. So let's start. start with the sign of Taurus. This is going to be Taurus, Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, Mars, Jupiter. Maybe you have a Taurus North Node. Maybe you have your 5th house is Taurus. Anything that you might possibly want to know about. And as we shuffle, just go ahead and set your intention, Taurus, and allow any thoughts to rise up to the forefront of your mind in reference to this particular situation, and let those thoughts just kind of gently wait there while I shuffle the cards. Now, if these are things which are stressful for you, I invite you to gently breathe through that energy. So as you inhale, draw in source energy. Now, I usually say draw in the divine white light of source, but I invite you to draw in source in whatever visualization works best for you. That could even be visualizing little tiny airplanes entering your nose and mouth as you inhale, and that being source energy. Or maybe you see like little tiny representations of your deities entering your body, or like a fine mist. And then as you exhale, just do a little bit of a body scan from the soles of your feet up through the crown of your head, and release any energy that's no longer serving you, energy that is stressful or painful. Just let it float right out into the ether, and it will be returned to source, and it will be transmuted. So, let me write down your timestamp. And here in the past for you, Taurus, we have the Hanged Man, and the Hanged Man is upright. So what that tells me about the past situation is that you have been kind of in stasis. It could be that you're waiting around for something because there's something you're expecting to come through. It could be you're waiting for the next thing to come around. The Hanged Man, there's also some elements of self-sacrifice for the benefit of the entire situation. So it could be that you're holding off on something until you have answers from other people. Here in the current situation, Taurus, because that Hanged Man card is upright, I know that that energy is continuing into the current situation, okay? And here in the place of the significator, I have the Lover's card showing up in the reverse, and it is crossed by the Judgment card. So that is a lot of big, major arcana energy. Now, the Lover's card can be about a love relationship that might be troubled at this time, but the Lover's card can also be about duality in situations whether that's two choices or whether that is different aspects of the self that must be reconciled. So it's not necessarily just a love relationship card. You could be really grappling with two disparate parts of your psyche right now as well. Now, if you look at the two cards side by side, in this particular deck, it's very interesting how they have been dealt with. We have the Lover's card here with the couple. And then we have the Judgment card. And here we have one figure standing over the other. So at this particular time, there might have been sacrifices that you were making for a partnership, whether this is a love relationship or another kind of relationship with another person. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be a love relationship. It could be a business partnership, or the Lover's card can also represent somebody who is almost like diametrically opposed to you. So in that situation, having these two cards showing up together like this, it's going to be the moment of truth for something. Now, if a relationship needs to end, it needs to end. And that's the judgment call that's being made here. It might not be that the relationship ends. It might be that the roles need to be vastly redefined. It could also be that there need to be boundaries put in place. And that is why we have this crossing energy of the Judgment card. This is not just like the Seven of Pentacles where there's an evaluation. This is something where there needs to be a complete and total change. Not depicted on these cards, but often present on both of these cards in, for example, the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, is the Archangel at the top of the card. On the Lover's card, there's usually an Archangel there, and the same for the Judgment card. So you can appeal to divine intervention in this case. That's not being depicted here, but that is available to you. And that Lover's card is Gemini energy, and the Judgment card is Pluto energy. So we're taking it a step beyond the scorpionic energy, and where we have the Judgment card, we have the energies of Pluto and the element of fire. Now down in the Imam Silai, this is going to be the foundations for a lot of things moving forward for you, Taurus. And setting you up for what ends up happening. When we get to the midheaven, we look at the goal or destiny. And down in the Imam Silai, we have the Page of Wands in the reverse. And this Page of Wands is possibly a fire sign person. When this card comes out reversed like this, I see it as someone being immature in physical relationships, or immature in a situation where maybe they were very enthusiastic on the front end. Maybe somebody overcommits to something. The Page of Wands is definitely an overcommitment energy. So like I was saying, that Lover's card doesn't necessarily just have to be about a love relationship. It very well can be, but it can also be a very close friend. It could be a roommate. Our roommates often have their own struggles. It can be all kinds of very close relationships, depending on your level of intimacy with that person. Because a lot of times a roommate or a very close friend is going to know just as much, if not more, about you as a romantic partner would. So from your perspective, Taurus, we have the Four of Wands in the reverse. You might have really thought that you were going to start a future with this person, or that the two of you were building something together. So this definitely could be a love relationship. And I think that you've been holding out for some kind of deeper commitment in this situation. From their perspective, and I think this is very interesting in this reading, Taurus. From their perspective, they have the Five of Swords in the upright, which is this idea that there's a right side and there's a wrong side, and one person is right and the other person is wrong, and there's not room for negotiation in between. And where we see this kind of conflict, this is not just like the Three of Swords. Like the Three of Swords, which, by the way, is not showing up in your reading. The Three of Swords is much more like discord or arguments. But the Five of Swords is really more like out and out combat. And it's not depicted that way in a lot of tarot decks. I really like the way it's handled in the initiatory tarot of the Golden Dawn, for example, that they literally show the combat on the card. I think there has to be room for that in our conversations. That it's really nice to have these beautiful decks that are very positive and light oriented, but when it's not balanced by the shadow side of things, it's not really telling you the full story. So keep that in mind with this Five of Swords, and especially because that is what is being reflected back to you by either the other person in this situation or the situation as a whole. Here in the future, we have the King of Wands in the upright, and this is a very good energy for you moving forward, Taurus. This King of Wands can be a fire sign person who is actively engaged in the creative process, who's a strong leader, who is able to accomplish things artistically. King of Wands would be like ad executive energy, be like professional graphic designer energy. Somebody who not only thinks creatively, but is able to use their creativity to negotiate their freelance positions. Because, of course, the job isn't the hardest part. The hardest part is getting along with all of the people you're working with. And so I think where you had this Page of Wands here in the Imam Silai in the reverse, either you're going to be meeting a person who has it much more together moving forward, or it's also possible that that King of Wands is your energy moving forward, Taurus, especially if you have strong, active sign energies in your chart, because the kings are air energy and then the wands is fire. So the King of Wands would be air of fire energy. So, oh yes, okay. I am going to take the opportunity to put on some lip balm. Do you want some too? I know I just had it on my mouth, but we're just pretending anyway. Here. It smells so good. It smells like orange, and then there's like a hint of vanilla. I really love these. And they come in these little tins. I ordered these from the big drugstore in Chicago. I don't remember offhand. Anyway, back to the Taurus reading. So Taurus, up here in your hopes and fears, we do have the Tower card. And it's in the upright. You are afraid of disaster. You're afraid of destruction. And if you look at the Four of Wands in the reverse, you're also looking at this lack of a proper foundation for something. So you are definitely perceiving at this time the lack of a good foundation in the current situation. Up here in the midheaven, now this is crucial. And I always joke about the Four of Swords coming out in my readings because I'm an ASMR channel. So yes, in the midheaven position, you get the nap time card, the Four of Swords, that you will have an opportunity to rest and rejuvenate yourself. And this will be a respite if there's been a lot of argument, if there's been a lot of combat in the current situation, you're moving far, far away from that. And it's going to be very restful and very rejuvenating for you, Taurus. And then finally, the final outcome. We have the Death card in the reverse. So honestly, we have the Hanged Man in the upright, so we know that we're moving from that Hanged Man energy into the Death energy, and we're getting this transformation. But honestly, it seems like kind of anticlimactic for you, Taurus. And I'll explain why, because that's not necessarily a bad thing for it to be anticlimactic. I think a lot of the really painful parts of the transformation that you'll be going through have already occurred. And that what's left now to do is for you to seek out closure within yourself and to wrap up the loose ends. The Death card is also scorpionic energy. And as your opposite sign, right? And so where we have the Death card in the reverse, now instead of those 8th house aspects, maybe we're even flipping it and reinforcing the 2nd house aspects, of which Taurus is a ruler anyway, which includes your stability, your financial security, security in general. So all of those things, Taurus, coming full circle for you at this time. And I think really a lot of that transformation came about because this person either felt like they had won and they walked away, or they felt like you had won and they walked away. And that there was a clear break there of some kind. So Taurus, this was not a terrible reading. It does look like the worst parts of this situation have passed, and now you're getting ready to move forward. So I applaud you for that. And I do hope that you are able to get that peace and relaxation that you deserve. So that is going to conclude the Taurus reading for this week. And now we're going to move on to the sign of Virgo. Virgo. Now, I'm going to go after the Earth sign reading video is over to the member side of the channel and do some crystal scrying with this piece of moss agate. So if that interests you, you are cordially invited. But your presence here on the channel is greatly appreciated in whatever form it takes. Alright, so Virgo, let's shuffle the cards. Let's see what's happening. You would like to go ahead and set your intention while I shuffle the cards. Set your intention, allow any thoughts, any ideas having to do with this particular situation, allow those things to rise up to the forefront of your thoughts. And just let those things wait patiently there. Now, if there are things about this that are stressful for you, I invite you to gently breathe through that energy. So as you inhale, draw in the divine energy of your source, of your deity, whatever it is. That you turn to, or that you consider your source energy, the divine, and draw it in whatever form seems most intuitive to you. I usually say the divine white light of source, but you could imagine it as sound frequencies entering your ears. You could imagine a snake going up your nostril. I'll leave that imagery up to you. And then as you exhale, just sigh out any of that discomfort or anxiety that is troubling you at this time. Kind of do a mini body scan from the soles of your feet up through the crown of your head, and any tension or discomfort that you find along the way, along those pathways, I invite you to just release that. All right, so let me write down your timestamp, Virgo. Okay. And let's get started in the past. So for the past, Virgo, we have the Knight of Cups, and this card is showing up in the reverse. There might have been a time where you were relying heavily, where you were relying heavily on your intuition and not as much on your logical thoughts. Now, that's all well and good. And there are times where it's important to do that, but it's also important to understand when it's time to listen more to logic and empirical evidence. So it looks like you have left that period behind for now. And we're moving into the current situation. Now, the card that jumped out for me, for you, Virgo, is the Four of Cups in the upright. This represents a number of options which will be open to you at this time. And also the waiting while you evaluate those options. The idea that you're kind of sitting around with these cups in front of you, just relaxing, taking your time to figure out if any of these are the right option for you. And that is crossed by the Queen of Rings. So this could be you in the reading, Virgo. It could also represent that at this time you have a few different potential income streams available to you. such that you might have a few different jobs that are on the table. You might be well qualified to do a number of different jobs that will pay you well. That Queen of Rings is a fertile proliferation of your resources. So it's not just going to be like a job where you have a stagnant salary. It's going to be a job where you have the potential for growth and where you have the potential to really increase your capital. So you might have a handful of things that are available to you at this time that would check that box. Down here in the MMCLI, this is going to be the foundations upon which your goal or destiny is built. And we'll look at that up in the midheaven in just a little while. Down here in the MMCLI, we have the Seven of Wands, and this card is showing up reversed. Now, the Seven of Wands can be a vantage point that you have gained, but that also makes you a target. So where we have the Seven of Wands in the reverse here in the MMCLI, people might not really be looking for you right now, Virgo. People might not really be checking out what you're doing or like aware, even though you have a lot of potential going on, you have a lot of options that in your general sphere, there's not a lot of awareness of that yet. But it's kind of poised, right? It's a little bit poised. So from your perspective, Virgo, we have the Ace of Cups in the reverse. And the Ace of Cups is a card about new emotional beginnings. So where we have this card in the reverse, you might be trying to make a new emotional beginning for yourself. You might be trying to get in touch with the self. You might be trying to have communion with your higher power. You might be seeking for answers within. And that would make sense because in the past, we had this period of time with the Knight of Cups. These cards do look very similar. But the answers might not be within you at this time, Virgo. In fact, it might serve you to climb up to a higher vantage point so that you'll have a different perspective and can look down on the situation more clearly. Here, from the outside, looking in on the situation, we have the Ten of Swords. This is really interesting because from the outside, people around you perceive this big ending. But that's not what I see here. That's not the totality of this situation. So that's very interesting that a lot of people around you are going to think that your world is absolutely ending in some way, shape, or form. Here in the future, we have the Strength card in the upright. And the Strength card is a great card to get. This is Leo's card in the Major Arcana, so your neighboring sign. Some of you could be cusp. Hi, Raziel. It's good to see you. Thank you for coming. The Strength card also has to do with your powers of the self. Your powers of persuasion, the strength to mold and shape the world around you. It's like the craft behind the magic, whereas the magician is all about that manifestation and the creative aspects of that. The Strength card is more like the molding and the shaping of it, if that makes sense. And that is in the upright, in the future for you, Virgo. Here in your hopes and fears, we have the Chariot card, and it's showing up in the reverse. Now, the Chariot is Cancer's card in the major arcana, and we did have the Ace of Cups coming out in the oppositional position, which is your perspective on the current situation. So you could have a Cancerian energy leaving your life at this time, although that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. With the Chariot card in the reverse, you might be feeling like the victory that you desire is always going to be like a couple steps ahead of you, that there's always going to be like this catching up that's going on. And that may or may not be the case. It's really going to depend on your perspective, on your success. And it's going to, if you think about it, if your goal is here and you finally get there, then you're going to set a slightly higher goal after that. You're going to decide, well, maybe I want to be here. And you're going to start working toward that goal. So there's a building process going on here. Hi, is that KT? It's good to see you. Thank you for coming. So Virgo, here in the midheaven, this is going to be the result of this Seven of Wands in the reverse in the current situation. So people not really checking for you. We do have in the midheaven the Six of Wands in the reverse. So that kind of, in some ways, is reinforcing your fears about things. But in other ways, you have so many options open to you when it comes to moving forward with your financial success that you can't possibly take all of them on at the same time. So you're going to have to reach one goal first, and then the next, and then the next. And it's going to be more like a building process. If you look at the math behind it too, in order to get from the Seven of Wands in the reverse to the Six of Wands, I kind of think about the reversals when I do my tarot math as negative numbers. So then you would add the Ace of Wands, and it's going to take you here. So the Ace of Wands is not showing up here in the reading, but we have it here strongly implied that in order to reach the Six of Wands in the upright and have that fulfilled, that you may be expending energy. So we do have that Strength card here. There's going to be a molding and a shaping process. And that Ace of Wands represents energy that you're going to be putting into this situation. It is the elemental energy of fire. And the wands here are definitely fire. So we do have a lot of fire sign energy and some cup energy. And moving on to your final outcome, we have the Ten of Cups, which is emotional satiety. And interestingly enough, it's in the opposition position to the Ten of Swords, which is the perspective of people from the outside looking in on your situation. So where they see this tumultuous or very painful ending, you are actually going to end up very emotionally fulfilled Sometimes the 10 of Cups is starting a family. It doesn't necessarily have to be. And I think if anybody is moving the goalposts, Virgo, it's you moving your own goalposts. And the more you move them forward, perhaps the emotional fulfillment comes from that attainment of goals in succession, such that in order to live a happy life, you are always on the move and you are always creating and doing new things. So that is going to conclude your reading for the week, Virgo. I'm going to do the sign of Capricorn next. And after Capricorn, I'm going to go over to the members side of the channel and I'm going to do the crystal scrying with this piece of moss agate. You are cordially invited, but your participation here on the channel is greatly appreciated in whatever form it takes. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. So now I'm going to move on to Capricorn. And Capricorn, if you would like, go ahead and set your intention for the reading. And I did hear, rather than set your intention, I was hearing set your motivation. So maybe right now you're asking the question that all good method actors ask, which is, what's my motivation? So allow any thoughts, any ideas connected to this to rise up to the forefront of your mind and wait there gently while I shuffle. And then we're going to look at the cards. Now, if there's anything, Capricorn, about the energies that you're dealing with at this time that is making you uncomfortable or tired or upset, I invite you to gently breathe through that energy. So if you would like, you can inhale and draw in your divine source energy. So however that looks to you. Does it look like a fine mist? Does it look like when Kirby swallows one of those little hooded guys in a video game? Does it look like a gentle tendril of smoke playfully curling up your nostril? And then as you exhale, just breathe it all out. And as you are exhaling, you can do a little miniature body scan. Start at the soles of your feet and work all the way through the crown of your head. And anywhere you feel tension or strain or stress, I want you to just gently release that energy. Let it go back to divine source, and it will be transmuted. All right. Good grief, Capricorn. Are these cards shuffled or what? Sometimes I just don't feel it yet, you know? Okay. That does it. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Let's see what we have here. All right, so here in the past, Capricorn, we have the Two of Rings, and this card is showing up in the reverse. You have left a partnership behind. This could be a business partnership or a love relationship, or you got everything into balance at some point in the past, and now you don't have to worry about that anymore. But this card is in the reverse, so that shows that this energy, you're leaving it behind in the past, but there are still going to be things about it that affect the present situation. So in the place of the significator, the current situation, we have the Star card, your neighboring sign of Aquarius's card in the major arcana. And what this Star card signifies is a lot of your hopes and dreams being fulfilled, and can also have to do with your social groups and the energies that you pour into your social groups. We do have a bird skull here on the Star card. This could also be possibly a crow's skull. And the crows are messengers. So we get that communication energy coming through as well. And remember that Aquarius is tied to 11th house energies having to do with your social groups. And that's where the connection is to the Star card. The crossing energy for the Star card in your reading is the Five of Wands. So you could have this very dynamic social group where there's a lot of rivalry and competition, but for the purpose of everyone's mutual improvement. That there's a lot of ideas bouncing around, there's a lot of creative discourse possibly, and there's a lot of potential for everyone to kind of level up together. So down here in the Imam Sili, that is the card below the significator, and it represents the foundations upon which your goal or destiny will be built. And that is what we will be looking at up here with the Midheaven card. So down in the Imam Sili, we have the High Priestess in reverse. And I think that Libra also got the High Priestess in the reverse in their reading yesterday. So that's very interesting if you have Libra energies as a fellow cardinal sign. The High Priestess in the reverse here, you could have absolutely no clue what is about to happen. The High Priestess also that all of the information is not yet available. She is tied very strongly to the luminary body of the moon. So there are cycles to that. There's waxing and waning energy. The moon does not supply a very bright light. It is the reflected light of the sun. So that light fluctuates. And there are times when things are very obscure. And then there are times when they're very illuminated, even at night. And where we have the High Priestess in the reverse here, there could be a cycle which is reaching its nadir also. And I say that because this card is in the Imam Sili position at the very bottom. We are talking about lunar cycles. The High Priestess is also the second card in the major arcana. And we have this idea of the High Priestess as straddling the two worlds. And she's able to communicate across that divide. And so we have here in her hands, we have the pomegranate, the afterlife, and then we have this bouquet representing the world above. And You could also be going through a period of time, Capricorn, where you might, if you normally see a lot of signs and signals from the other side, there might be kind of like a radio silence going on. Inversely, if the veil is usually very thick for you, you could be going through a period in your life where the veil is actually very thin. You're getting a lot of messages coming through and you don't understand a lot of them or how to take them. Here, from your perspective, Capricorn, we have the 10 of Pentacles and it's in the reverse. You might be tapping into retirement accounts at this time, or you might be feeling like you are not able to invest and reach the levels of generational wealth that you really desire to create for yourself and for future generations. So that even though there's some very cool creative stuff going on for you at this time, that you feel like the money is not coming in to the extent that it's really going to support you in the long term. There might still be a lot of money coming in. From an outside perspective looking in, there's a very guarded energy. We have the 9 of Wands, and it's in the upright. So that's very guarded energy on your part, Capricorn, that people observing you might not be able to read you very well or read what's going on with you very well. If you look at this card, you see that there's all these sunflowers and they're open very wide. Now, the sunflowers are always going to be pointed at the sun, but they provide a very dense kind of foliage such that it's very difficult to see around them. And in fact, on this card, we can't really tell if there's anything beyond that or not, other than the night sky and the stars. Here in the future, Capricorn, we have the King of Cups. This is air of water energy. The King of Cups, we do see some money here on this card, is a provider. This is somebody who nurtures in an active sense. They could be a mentor. They could be somebody who is a patriarch in a family or plays that role. They don't necessarily have to be masculine or masculine energy. This would be somebody, though, who is an active nurturer, whereas the Queen of Cups would be more like the emotional, the passive nurturer. That could be your role in the future, Capricorn. Or you could meet somebody who takes on this King of Cups role for you, much like Taurus got the King of Cups, or the King of Wands, rather. Taurus got the King of Wands in the future in their reading. So from your hopes and fears, we have the Seven of Swords. You might be afraid that someone could stab you in the back. You might fear betrayal or underhanded dealings. Now, this is in opposition to where we have that 10 of Rings in the reverse, such that you might feel this way in regards to your financial situation. You might feel that possibly people have taken advantage of you, or that you have not gotten the proper opportunities because of some backstabbing. Now, it's important to keep in mind that the crossing card for the current situation is the Five of Wands, which is a lot about creative competition, rivalry that drives everyone to improve. So it's not necessarily that people are like out to get each other. It could just be that that's how you're perceiving this, because that is in your hopes and fears. So Capricorn up here in the midheaven position, that is going to be the result of the foundation that we've built here with the High Priestess. And that is the Four of Rings, conserving resources. This can be saving money. This can be holding on to things, not too tightly, not too loosely, just holding on to things that you want to preserve. It's a card of preservation. And where we're coming out of this High Priestess energy, if you have not dealt with your ability to see beyond the veil, you're going to be learning how to have boundaries and how to preserve your energy. And if you have been hearing radio silence in regards to those gifts that are normally quite active, you might be looking at the ways that either your energy is being drained, that is preventing that from coming through, or starting to hone those gifts, possibly in a way that you haven't before. This card is showing up upright, so it's not something that you're having to scramble to hold on to. It's something that you will be able to retain, but it does look like it might take some navigation of that. And the final outcome for your reading, Capricorn, is the Eight of Rings, the Eight of Pentacles. And this Eight of Pentacles is about long-term career or financial prospects. So it can also be retirement accounts or passive income streams, such that you are able to tap into these things long-term throughout the rest of your life. So you are headed for that which you are desiring at this time, of that legacy wealth. This card of the Eight of Pentacles is in opposition to the Nine of Wands, where outside people see you as being kind of closed off, kind of guarded. And remember that a lot of what is going on for you right now in the current situation is based around your social groups and the exchange of ideas and creativity that is going on there. So if you remain closed off like that, you could be closing yourself off from this. I don't think that long term that is what you're going to do. I think that you will end up opening up enough that those things will flourish and prosper. So that is going to conclude the Earth sign readings for this week. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone who joined live for the live stream. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone who watches these videos in replay. I so greatly appreciate your support, and I look forward to seeing you again. super